Hello, welcome to today's upload. Today we're following on from the upload from last week on GCSE English Language AQA Paper 1. Today we're looking at Paper 2. We're going to walk through the exam paper, what you will be handed out in the exam, what you will be expected to cover, and a little bit of how to answer the questions. For a breakdown on specific questions, there are also uploads on my channel where short uploads we look at each individual question with ideas and formulas and systems of how to answer the questions to maximise our grades. So firstly, Paper 2, you'll be handed out two booklets. The first one will be an insert, which is what you can see now. Paper 2 insert. The difference from Paper 1 and Paper 2, there are several, but the main one in Paper 2, you have two sources, source A and source B. Whereas in Paper 1 you had one source, a story, piece of fiction. So this is transactional writing. It's real writing, writing for a purpose. So we have two examples. Source A, source B. So source A, this one about cyclists. Source A was published in the Guardian newspaper in 2016. In this article, the writer Peter Walker explores how people who cycle in the city are at risk from other road users. Don't worry, I'm not going to read through the full article. And this is source A, this is the article. Then we have source B. So this extract, the Countess of Malmesbury describes her experience of riding a bicycle in the streets of London. She wrote the magazine article in 1896. This is important. So source B is a separate article. However, the first thing in the little box at the top, this article is from 1896, whereas this article is for 2016. We know the second question, summarise the differences. So source A was from a newspaper, The Guardian, a modern contemporary newspaper from 2016, whereas source B is from Victorian Times, a magazine article in 1896. This was wrote by the Countess. Source A was wrote by a male journalist. So we see differences already, and we'll come to this when we come to question 2, but when we summarise the differences, we are looking for the differences. If it's specific and says the differences between the roads, but if it just then you're specific to the roads, but if it's not specific, just summarise the differences between source A and source B. Straight away, who wrote them, when they were wrote. We've got a difference before we've even gone into the article. So source A and source B. The exam paper asks us to compare, summarise the differences in the two articles, how the writers use language and structure to show their points of view, how they are different to one another. So it's a comparison paper. If we then go to the paper, very similar to Paper 1, we have all the instructions, use black ballpoint pen. You will notice here, the important part is there is a section A and a section B, exactly the same as Paper 1. Section A is reading. We read the two sources and we answer questions on what we've read. Section B, now it's your turn to do the piece of writing. You have to write an extended piece of writing, a transactional piece. So let's look through. Question 1, similar to Paper 1, it's a 4-mark question, and this one, it's not asking you to write down what it tells us, it's asking you to shade in which ones are correct. So we have A to H, and it asks us to choose 4 statements which are true and shade in the box. The clue for this is quite straightforward. It's a warm-up to the exam paper. It's only worth 4 marks. However, 4 marks are 4 marks. If we need, last year when I looked at the marking scheme, it was 48 marks to pass this paper at a grade 4. So we are aiming for 48 marks for a grade 4. So the 4 marks, they do count, they add up. We need to be precise on this. And the best way to do this is, don't just read the articles, come to this question and shade what you think is right. Double check. Prior preparation prevents poor performance. Take your time. If you think A is correct, just quickly, we're only looking at lines 1 to 10 in source A. So we look at lines 1 to 10. Where is the evidence? Is there evidence this is true? Tick it. Is there evidence this is true? Spending 5 minutes on this question, you guaranteed 4 marks. If you just double check, don't just shade. Right, question 2. You need to refer to source A and source B for this question. It's not specific on what lines. doesn't say from lines 1 to 12, it just says source A. So we can look at the whole source. You do not have to write about all of the source, but we can look at it and try and find source answers from this. The children at the primary school and the Ragged School have behaved very differently. Use details from both sources to write a summary of the differences between the behaviour of the children at the two schools. 8 marks. Firstly, the first question that I'm asked by my students is, how much do we have to write? I think in this paper, 1 paragraph equals 4 marks. So for every 4 marks, write a paragraph. This is an 8-mark question. 2 good paragraphs will allow you the opportunity to gain the maximum marks. So when we are doing this question, we are looking for words as whereas, alternatively, furthermore, conversely. There is uploads where we dive specifically into this question on my channel, but the simple answer, it is a summary. We are not delving into language techniques or structural techniques. A basic P paragraph. In source A, we learn that the behaviour of the children is your point, then a quote to back this up, and then your inference what this means. This shows that the children enjoy playing outside, having fresh air, and this is their preference. Whereas in source B, we learn that the children don't like going outside. It states, quote, we can infer from this that the children much prefer to play with toys and be in the warm indoors. So that is a very basic summary, but we are just looking for differences. In source A, we learn this, quote, explain, whereas, although, conversely, in source B, we learn. 2 paragraphs of that. So we need 2 comparisons. That is question 2. We then go on to question 3. Question 3, we've seen this question before. This was question 2 in English Language Paper 1. Be careful on the lines. You now need to refer only to source A from lines 11 to 27. I think it's good practice to highlight. Highlight that. There, source A, lines 11 to 17, and then before you answer it, go to the exam paper, the insert, sorry. Let's say source A, lines, 11 to 27, and just highlight lines 11, so here, lines to 25, 26, 27. Now, rather than spending far too much time in the exam highlighting it so it looks like that, you could just put a little highlighter there, and then find where line 27 is, and there, or you could just write question, and the number of the question, and arrows pointing. Just a little marker on the paper so that you can circle it, put a circle around it. You can keep in line with the question, you're not deviating and going anywhere else. How does a writer use language to describe Sister Brenda? Right, we are looking for 12 marks, so 3 paragraphs. 1 quote, and mention the language technique in each paragraph. So it is almost the same as question 2 in paper 1. So the writer uses language to describe Sister Brendan as, let's say, a fantastic, caring human being. When he says, quote, this simile suggests she is. So we're looking at the language. If it's language, we want to use our specific technical vocabulary. Adjectives, adverbs, similes, metaphors, alliteration, personification, the list just goes on and on and on. The use of words and phrases. In paper 1, we get example bullet points. You could talk about, you could include. This one, we don't get any hints. How does the writer use language to describe Sister Brendan? We're not getting the help that we get in paper 1. But we know our language techniques. There is an upload specifically on this question. So 3 paragraphs. In each paragraph, include a quote, your evidence, and your technique. So it could be 3 short Peter paragraphs, P-E-T-E-R, point, evidence, technique, explain, effect on the reader. And that's question 3. So a language question. So the work we've done in paper 1, we also use for paper 3. Now question 4, interesting question. On first glance, it looks very similar to question 2. For this question, you need to refer to the whole of source A together with the whole of source B. So we're looking at all of source A and all of source B. Compare how the writers convey their different attitudes to the two schools. Now we do get advice here. In your answer you could compare the different attitudes, compare the methods the writers use to convey, support your response with references to both texts. So it spells it out how we answer that question there. The bullet points, wherever there's bullet points, they are really helpful. So in one paragraph, I would think we should discuss structure. So don't get carried away with language. There's no rules, there's no wrong and right, but it could be in source A, the writer uses very short, specific paragraphs with little detail. However, in source B, the writer uses much more detailed paragraph lengths. Both use a summary in their last short paragraph at the end of the articles, so we can delve into structure on this as well as language. If you're confident with structure, this is the perfect opportunity. Remember, writers convey. How do writers convey? They use language and they use structure. So we can use our knowledge of language, how to write a language question and how to write a structure response. So question 3, English Language Paper 1, was a structure question. We can use the same skills, but we are comparing. Compare. Look how many times the word compare is in this page. 3 times. Compare the different attitudes. So in source A, the writer conveys the attitude of point, evidence, explain, include technique, whereas in source B, the writer shows a different attitude. So again, it's showing knowledge of the both sources. Question 2 was a summary where we don't talk about techniques, but question 4 we can go into more detail. We can talk about what the use of the adjective creates in an attitude. So we're summarising the differences of the attitudes the writers show through their use of language and structure. Now question 5, section B. We've got an upload on this with a great formula. So look at my channel, please look for English Language Paper 2 section B, or just look for transactional writing. So how to do guide on transactional writing. So question 5, it gives us a statement. Education is not just about which school you go to or what qualifications you gain. It is also about what you learn from your experiences outside of school. Write a speech for your school or college leavers day to explain what you think makes a good education. There are 2 assessment objectives, your technical accuracy and your content and organisation. Content organisation, the structural features you use, and your technical accuracy, the use of the vocabulary, the use of your punctuation, your sentence types. So look at the upload on transactional writing. You will gain a wealth of knowledge and ideas on how to do transactional writing. It's a speech. It does change. It's not always write a speech. It could be write an article, write a diary, write a letter, any kind of magazines. It's all sorts of transactions. So we need to be aware of the differences and how to address the audience. Again, it's on my upload. So this is AQA English Language Paper 2.